Good evening, C3 parent. Ooh, haha, there we let's try that again. Good evening, C3 parents. I'm your coach, Karien Pitout, and welcome to the conversation. Tonight, we are actually having a very interesting and very important conversation. So please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, remember to subscribe to our channel. It is really amazing to see you. If you are watching, please just say hi, drop in. If you're watching this on the replay, remember to type in hashtag replay so that we can chat a bit. All right, so let's really dive into the topic of today's conversation. And my cable is stuck. Anyway, right. So let's quickly let's dive into the conversation of tonight. Tonight, we're actually going to talk about sexual orientation and what it has got to do with parenting. Now, there is a huge myth out there in the world that if you parent your child in XYZ manner, they will move away from the so-called mainstream sexual orientation. When they are born with either vagina or penis, they will be attracted to the opposite sex, which is one of the biggest myths out there. Biologically, our physical attraction to people, is literally run by our biological makeup. It is got nothing really to do with our genitalia. It's got nothing to do about the way that we are raised. It's got literally it's brain chemistry, and nobody can change that or adapt, like fix it. There's no way to fix it because there's nothing wrong with someone that is born and attracted to the same sex. Now, the LGBTQI or sexual orientation um, is a spectrum, so there's varieties of sexual orientations. And tonight, I'm just literally going to dip my toes into it. And the reason why I am, in a one hand, we have to have this conversation. On the other hand, I'm a bit weary of having this conversation. Is I'm cisgendered female white woman, which means I fit into the norm of my sexual orientation. I am in a position of privilege due to my race. And in my gender identification, once again, I fit into the norm. Yes, do I veer a bit more outside the box sometimes, but my general day to day life, I fit in with the norm, which places me in a position where I cannot speak for the marginalized. I cannot speak for those who are living the reality that their gender identity does not conform with what their body says. Their sexual orientation does not conform to what's happening in the mainstream. But there's still an important conversation to be had. And we need to have this conversation because it is not just tiring, some even for us that have this conversation, that stand up for LGBTQI plus rights. It is extremely tiring for those people who identify within that community to continuously explain and justify their existence, and have to continuously fight to be recognized as, first of all, as human beings, and second of all, as that they are worthy. They are not just their sexual orientation. So, one of the first things that is extremely important, and this doesn't matter what religion you have, um, your child is or person is born with a sexual identity or orientation. That means that they may be attracted to both genders. They might not even be attracted to any gender. And so there's the thing of asexuality, where someone is not even, they enjoy company of, doesn't matter which gender the person is, or they might enjoy the company of the opposite gender or the same gender a little bit more than the other. But for them, their engagement, there's not that sexual drive. There's nothing wrong with them for not having that drive. It's just it's, and a lot of people live with this fear of, like, oh my word, people around me are interested in sex and all of those things, but I'm not. Is there something wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with them. So it's literally, it is a spectrum. You've got different driving factors that plays a role in people's sexual orientation. Which of the prominent thing is they are born that way. This is how their biological makeup looks, and it's how their brain works, and that is how they're put together. So, what do I do as a parent? What are the important conversations that we have to have with our kids, no matter your religious view or anything like that? Is that a child is born with a specific biological makeup. And whether they play with so called genderized toys or not, whether they go through a gender creative stage, whether they have a very prominent mother, which is one of the things that drives me insane because there's people that hold on to the theory like if you had a domineering mother or if you had um, a mom was stressed during the pregnancy, the child will be born with a um, different sexual orientation than their biological makeup. And that is all theories that has been disproven. It's not a parent's fault that a child is attracted to the opposite sex or to both sexes or just not attracted to any sex. Um, it's 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 not what it's about. It's not a parent cannot change a child's orientation. What can happen is if a parent has a problem with a child's orientation, that parent can lose that child, and that child can lose that parent because a person can only live for so long hiding who they truly are for acceptance until they make of one of two choices: break away from the toxic environment that tells them that they are not worthy of anything, or to break away in the sense of commit suicide, or ultimately that leads down the road of self-harm and death. And whether it is 1%, whether it is 0.5%, whether it is 2%, whether it's 20% of society, whether it is 50% of society that has a diverse gender or sexual orientation, we need to understand that every life lost, every relationship broken due to the fact of not being accepted for our sexual orientation or for who we are attracted to is a significant loss for society as a whole. It is us as parents, our responsibility to love our children unconditionally. They were given to us, whether you have a religious belief that a God or God gave this child to you to raise, and whether you're atheist, you have a responsibility towards a child that was given to you to raise, to love it unconditionally, to love the child unconditionally, regardless if their behaviors or their sexual orientation or anything like that aligns with your world beliefs. You have a responsibility to love them. And here is a little side note. I'm going to speak to the Christians specifically. So please, if you're not a Christian, please don't tap out. But Christians, you need to understand something very clearly, that even Jesus never turned his back on gay people. In actual fact, there's a Roman soldier that came to him and said he's basically his special friend, his gay partner, is severely ill and they need healing because this person's going to die. And Jesus healed that soldier's romantic partner. Um, Jesus never had a problem with sexual orientation of people. He never had a problem with them being in a relationship with each other. If God or Jesus really had such a big problem, would Jesus really have saved the Roman soldiers' like life partner? No, he wouldn't have. So let's get that from the get go, that there is a lot of discussions that we need to have in the religious, especially the Christian religious circles, which needs to move to a space of affirmation. But let's get back to parenting. Nothing you do can make your child gay or whatever some people believe. And I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm not trying to be, I don't know how to say this now. My mind went blank. But I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to attack anyone. What I'm trying to say is that there's nothing wrong with a child or a person that is whose sexual orientation is different um, from what is the norm or what is mainstream. What they need is love, support, and acceptance. If your child grows up having to come out of the closet to you, fearing their life, whoever, like saying, like, mom, dad, I'm attracted to boys or girls, then we as parents have missed our unconditional love step. Then we have made them scared of who they are and what they are. Because whether we like it or not, yes, our sexual orientation is not our whole identity. But in society, we've created an environment where people's whole identity of acceptance within society, so for some other reason, now revolves around their sexual orientation. And I'm not talking about people fighting for acceptance and the right to actually just be who they are. I'm talking about the mainstream society that creates an environment where a child actually struggles to go through developmental phases of finding their identity, finding and figuring out who they are, because their biggest fear is to be who they are. Their biggest fear is to acknowledge their sexual attraction, their orientation. If we as parents create an environment of that for our kids, that fear, we have missed the mark. So we need to have conversations with our kids from very young about same sex relationships. Not that it's a sin, not that it's doomed, not that it's wrong. It's a biological fact. The same way that you have certain biological facts, male, female, you've got ears, you've got eyes, your eyes are brown, you can't change it. It's the same conversation with our kids regarding sexual orientation. The more freedom there is in our society, our children, whether you don't want your child to know about the LGBTQI community, they will be exposed to them because they will go to school with a family where there's a kid that has two mothers or two fathers, or has a father that is a mother now, or um, those kind of situations. So your kid will be exposed to it. So if you have honest conversations that love is love, people have this orientation, and they're still good parents. They still love their kids unconditionally. It makes it easier for your kid to navigate the world. It makes it easier on those who have been marginalized for so long to move through this world. It is Pride Month this month, a worldwide Pride Month, and that is why I've picked this specific topic. But we've had a conversation about genderized socialization, with gender toys and all those things, and it's important that we start having conversations. It is sad that there had to be a study done to show that kids raised by two men or by two women do not grow up into dysfunctional adults, and they don't turn out gay because they had to. Here's the thing: if being exposed to an environment that shows a specific lifestyle changes you to live by that specific lifestyle, no person would have come out with a different sexual orientation. because the majority of people, because it's mainstream, because it's what you see, that's the common, what you see is male and female relationship. That is the mainstream, that is the most common relationships that you see. So if that is the most common that you're exposed to, then all kids in heteronormative relationships, being raised with heteronormative parents, even when it's a single parent that starts dating, or if that person's heteronormative, then those children shouldn't become, shouldn't be gay if that is like what influences homosexuality. It doesn't. That is why someone's sexual orientation does not determine whether that person's a good parent or a bad parent. What does determine whether someone is a good parent or bad parent is the conditions they have for the love they have for their child, the acceptance that they have for their child, their willingness to accept their child for who they are and how they've been put together and been created. So, if you have any questions on this topic, if you have any corrections on this topic, and this is specifically an invitation to my LGBTQI plus friends, please feel free to comment in the comments. Please remember to hit that like button. It really helps out this channel. Please stay safe, wash your hands, and get vaccinated if you are capable of getting have access to vaccines, guys. Stay safe. I love you, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time. Have a good one. Cheers.